See, some of you might not know, I have to read your chat sometimes. And reading chat is hard. But what if I just didn't have to do that? What if the chat could read itself? From this point forward, this will all be taken care of by the newest member of the Whimsu team. The sexy robot lady. See, what happens is... I'll pull it up here. So here's a little bit of an example. What I'll do, if I have... I'm gonna highlight the text that I want. I right-click it. Okay, I'm back. I'm trying this again. So, let me know what you think of the newest member of the Whimsu team. Get out of here, Wimbot.
You got some spaghetti on your overalls.
Fuck you, Luigi. Okay, so... yeah, that was... mistakes were made. But I think finally I can introduce the newest member of the team.
Hi, I will try to not explode. Beep.
Well, it's time for a special episode of Whimsu News because, well, there's some breaking news. So I'm gonna have to do this one as a live episode. If you haven't been following the whole FTC versus Microsoft thing, well, it's been a thing. Microsoft is trying to buy Activision Blizzard, the FTC got in its way, and then Microsoft beat the FTC. The FTC challenged the decision, and then that decision got struck down. It's a whole big thing I've already talked about. But today, the news is that Sony effectively conceded. Sony was really the most interested company in getting this deal blocked. They had the most to gain, and they've been fighting the hardest. But today they finally signed a deal with Microsoft.
Are they going to bring all Activision Blizzard games to PlayStation?
Well, no.
What about just the Activision games?
No, it wasn't that either. It was Call of Duty. It was just Call of Duty, which we already knew was going to happen. Phil Spencer said it under oath that Call of Duty was still going to come to PlayStation, and this new announcement doesn't disclose any new details we didn't know before. Kind of. Without knowing the condition of the deal, we don't know whether there's a content parity clause, whether Microsoft has to offer a similar experience on PlayStation, as it will on its own platform, or how long this deal even is for. Is it just for the length of the PS5 generation, since Sony themselves have said they don't intend on giving Microsoft access to PS6 dev kits? But all that this really means, all that we can really take away from this, Sony has effectively admitted defeat, and whatever new Call of Duty games are releasing for the next few years, they will be coming to PlayStation in some form. Now, as of yet unnamed robot mentioned earlier, this deal doesn't include all Activision Blizzard games. It is just Call of Duty. And I think it's pretty safe to assume that most of the Activision Blizzard future releases might not be on the PlayStation platform.
Gasp.
Yeah, really shocking.
But wouldn't they lose money? Think of all the sales they're missing out on.
I mean, that's a good point, but, like, you could apply that to Starfield, or Redfall, or any other exclusive.
But what about Minecraft?
Minecraft's different.
Why?
I don't know. It's on every platform.
So is Spyro.
Yeah, but it's different.
No, it's not.
Okay, yeah, they're not. Look, they didn't sign the deal. They didn't. If they were bringing the other games to PlayStation, they would have signed the deal.
But wouldn't they lose money? Think of all the sales they're missing out on. Beep.
Microsoft, you know how much money Microsoft is worth? Robot, you were born like 7 minutes ago. You don't know what? As I've talked about before, this deal isn't really about Activision or Blizzard. It's about King. I hate to break it to you guys, but I don't think future Activision Blizzard games will release on the PlayStation platform, with the exception of Call of Duty. I could be wrong, but they haven't signed the deal. Microsoft should have to honor any existing contracts they signed, and even future live service games like Overwatch 3 should probably go to PlayStation. I mean, it would make almost no sense to just eliminate that platform altogether. But beyond the live service titles, who knows? And part of this might be Sony's fault. So Sony made a big stink about the deal, and they challenged it in courts. They did not want Activision to get bought out by Microsoft. But imagine if they would have simply compromised instead of going to all of these regulators. Rather than go to the CMA, the FTC, and try and fight Microsoft on this, wouldn't it have made more sense to just sign a deal from the beginning? Try and get, say, all future Overwatch or Diablo games in Call of Duty and Spyro, and in return, Sony wouldn't have been spending the last few months fighting this decision in the courts. Now, I don't know if that would have worked. I'm not an expert on business negotiations, but Sony was playing a risky game here, and I think they bet that they could shut the deal down altogether rather than making any concessions with Microsoft, and it burned them. Now that Microsoft seems to be getting Activision Blizzard, the deal is going forward. Sony is now forced to accept the new terms, of which we don't actually know, beyond the fact that PlayStation gets Call of Duty for an undisclosed amount of time. Hindsight is 2020. Yes, Sony should have negotiated with Microsoft months ago for better terms, but they didn't. Was this greed on Jim Ryan's part, or a good assessment of risk versus reward? It's hard to say. Almost impossible, considering how this deal is so far beyond the scale and scope of anything we've seen in the industry. And going forward, I think this makes everything quite interesting. I plan on doing a big Activision Xbox video when the deal is officially done, which it's not. What's interesting to note is that even with just the addition of Call of Duty to the Microsoft library, Xbox Game Studios is now the single largest publisher on PlayStation. Part of this is due to the previous Minecraft acquisition, but still, this is weird. Microsoft has so much leverage on Sony now, and that was probably why they wanted to fight the deal in the first place. And it's going to be incredibly interesting to see how this plays out in the future. Xbox, the supposed underdog, the third place in the console race, now seems to have a lot of leverage on the market leader. Personally, I can't imagine that Sony would actively deny Microsoft access to PlayStation 6 dev kits because they own Activision, risking lower quality versions of even just Call of Duty to avoid giving away trade secrets. Now, I could be wrong, but the power dynamic between these companies has shifted, and Sony conceding today is the first sign of that. I'm sorry this was a bit unconventional of a video. I didn't have time to put in all the fancy lighting effects and all that stuff. But if you want to talk about it more, I will be streaming all day today, whatever day that is. I stream most days. I'm gonna go play Spyro.